The war had ended, but peace had not truly come. The burned planet Kepra 4 was covered in smoke, broken buildings and silent fields where children once played. The great Rinth Dominion had won. Their metal ships now floated above the sky like silent vultures, taking whatever they pleased from the weak worlds below. Captain David Hale, a human officer from the USS Horizon, stood among the ruins with a small relief team. They were sent to help survivors, distribute food, treat wounds, and make lists of missing families. Humanity had fought beside the Kepra, but after the surrender, they were ordered to stay neutral. Yet neutrality was hard when you saw suffering. David was walking past the old schoolyard when he heard a cry that froze his steps. It was the sound of a mother's voice, broken, desperate, and raw. He turned his head and saw them near the square, a Kepra woman kneeling on the dusty ground holding her little girl tightly. Around them stood 5 Rinth soldiers, tall and cold, their silver armor shining like mirrors under the gray sun. The Rinth leader pointed a long hand at the child. "She has high neuron potential," he said. His voice was flat, mechanical. "She will be taken for re-education and service to the Dominion." The mother's arms shook as she pulled her daughter close.
"She's only 5,
she cried. "Please take me instead." The child buried her face into her mother's chest, trembling. The soldiers did not care. To them, mercy was a human word. David clenched his fists. He knew what the Rinth did to re-educated children. They erased their memories, made them serve as tools, living machines. He looked around. The other survivors were silent, afraid to move. Even the wind seemed to stop. The Rinth leader reached down, grabbing the child's small wrist. That was the moment David Hale moved. He stepped forward, his boots hitting the cracked stone with sharp sound. "Let her go," he said firmly. The soldiers turned their glowing eyes toward him. One of them spoke in their native tongue, but Hale didn't need a translator. Their meaning was clear. "Step aside, human." He didn't. He moved between the soldiers and the mother, standing tall despite the blaster rifles aimed at him. "No one's taking a child while I'm standing here," Hale said, voice calm but strong. The Rinth commander tilted his head. "Your war is over. You have no authority here." "Maybe," Hale replied, "but I still have a conscience." The commander's fingers twitched. "You interfere, you die." Hale met his gaze without flinching. "Then I die on the right side." Behind him, his sergeant Mark Lanson whispered urgently, "Sir, orders are to stay out of Rinth business. If we fire, we'll break the peace treaty." "I know," Hale said softly, "but I won't watch a child taken like that." He raised his voice so all could hear. "If you want her, you'll have to go through me." The Rinth soldiers aimed their rifles. For a moment, it seemed the world would explode into chaos. Then something unexpected happened. The Rinth commander hesitated. Humans were known for their clever machines, their fierce battles, but not for standing unarmed in front of alien guns to protect strangers. The commander studied Hale as if trying to understand something illogical. "Why?" the alien finally asked. "She is not your kind. Her death means nothing to your species." Hale's answer was quiet but full of fire. "That's what makes it matter." The alien commander fell silent. Hale took a slow breath, pressing his comm device. "Horizon, this is Hale," he said. "If I don't report back in 1 hour, transmit my coordinates to every channel. Let the galaxy know what the Rinth are doing here." His voice echoed across the battlefield. Civilians hiding nearby peeked out from the ruins, watching the human who stood against the Empire. The Rinth leader signaled his soldiers to hold. Then he said coldly, "You risk destruction for one small life, foolish." "Maybe," Hale replied. "But sometimes one small life is the reason the rest of us deserve to live." The air grew tense again. The little girl looked up at the human through her tears. She had never seen eyes like his, blue, calm, and kind even while facing death. Minutes passed like hours. Hale's men formed a loose defensive circle around him, rifles ready but aimed low. They wouldn't fire first, but they wouldn't run either. Sergeant Lanson muttered, "Sir, this is suicide." Hale didn't answer. His gaze stayed locked on the Rinth leader. At last, the commander lowered his hand. "We will report this violation to our superiors," he said. "But today we will not spill blood over one child." They turned and walked away. The silence that followed was so heavy it felt unreal. The mother sobbed, holding her daughter close, whispering thank yous between tears. Hale knelt beside them, his voice soft. "You're safe now." The little girl looked up at him and asked, "Why did you help me?" Hale smiled faintly. Because someone has to. When they returned to camp, Hale's superior officers were waiting. They had already received reports from the Rinth Command. The message was simple. Human captain interfered in Dominion collection procedure. Immediate disciplinary action recommended. The senior officer, Admiral Reyes, pulled Hale aside. Do you have any idea what you've done, Captain? You just risked a new war. Hale met his eyes. Sir, if we start following orders that let us watch children taken from their mothers, then maybe we already lost the war that mattered. Reyes stared at him for a long time, then sighed deeply. You've got a heart, Hale, but hearts don't survive politics. Maybe not, Hale said quietly, but they survive history. That night the camp was quiet. The wind carried the smell of ashes and new rain. The Kepra mother and her daughter slept safely near the human tents. Hale stood outside staring at the stars. Somewhere above, the Rinth fleet glowed like a scar across the heavens. He knew they would remember his defiance. He also knew he couldn't take it back, but deep inside he felt no regret. He had seen fear and cruelty spread across galaxies, but tonight, he had seen something else, hope. And sometimes, one act of courage was enough to make the universe pause and think again. As he turned to go inside, the little girl's voice broke the silence. Good night, Captain, she said sleepily. Hale smiled at the stars. Good night, kid. He didn't know it yet, but this small act of defiance would echo across planets, across species, across time itself, changing everything that came after. The sun rose over Kepra 4 like a muted warning. Smoke curled over the horizon, and broken towers glinted in the pale light. Captain David Hale was already awake, checking the perimeter of the temporary human camp. The little Kepra girl, Lyra, slept under a blanket near her mother, her tiny hands clutching a worn toy. Hale couldn't stop thinking about her words from the night before. Good night, Captain. He had never expected that one simple act of defiance, standing in front of the Rinth soldiers, would ripple so far. Reports were already coming in from distant sectors. Stories of a human captain protecting alien children were spreading across the galaxy. Some called him reckless. Others called him a hero. Hale didn't care for titles. He only knew he couldn't ignore injustice. Meanwhile, the Rinth Dominion was far from pleased. Commander Vierthal paced in the bridge of his flagship. The crystalline light of the ship reflected off his jagged form. Captain Hale interfered, Vierthal said, his voice like grinding metal. He placed one child above the will of the Dominion. This must not be allowed. His second, Threx, a smaller but equally sharp alien, tilted his head. You will send troops? Or will you eliminate him directly? Vierthal paused. We will observe first. Humans are unpredictable, but we will not tolerate this display again. One act of mercy should not become rebellion. Back on Kepra 4, Hale's team was preparing for the day. Supplies were scarce and the camp barely held enough shelter for the survivors. But morale had risen. Seeing the humans protect the children gave hope to the Kepra survivors. Mothers whispered to one another about the brave human who defied the Rinth. Children looked at Hale like he was a guardian angel. Hale checked the little girl, Lyra, as she stirred awake. Morning, he said softly. Sleep well? Lyra nodded, rubbing her eyes. Did the big bad soldiers go away? Hale knelt beside her. For now. But we need to stay careful. The girl looked puzzled. But you're not afraid? Hale smiled. Being afraid doesn't mean you run. It means you fight for what's right. She considered this and nodded solemnly, like a tiny general understanding her first battle lesson. By midday, the tension was tangible. The Rinth had not returned to the surface, but scouts were already orbiting the planet. Hale knew it was only a matter of time before they made another move. He called a meeting with his team. Listen, he said, we're outnumbered, and we're on a planet that isn't ours. But here's the truth. Sometimes standing in the right place matters more than having weapons. Sergeant Lanson frowned. Sir, we're not just standing. If the Rinth come down with full force, we'll be wiped out. Hale nodded. I know, but we'll hold the line as long as we can. And maybe, just maybe, others will see what we're doing and join us. You know what humans do when they see something worth fighting for. The team exchanged quiet nods. They had seen Hale act before in impossible situations, but this time, it wasn't about a mission or orders. It was about protecting life, and that inspired everyone. The Rinth fleet made its move that evening. Small ships descended silently from the dark sky, scanning the camp with piercing lights. Lyra's mother shrank back, holding her child tightly. Hale stepped forward. Everyone stay calm. Let them see we're not afraid. The first Rinth ship touched down. Soldiers disembarked, their metallic footsteps echoing across the broken ground. The humans formed a protective circle around the civilians. Hale raised his hand slowly. Rinth, he called out, I don't want war, but if you touch a single child, we will defend them. The Rinth commander from the first encounter emerged. Captain Hale, you persist in defiance. This is illogical. You risk your life and theirs unnecessarily. Perhaps, Hale replied, but that's what makes it human. A tense silence stretched across the field. Then unexpectedly something shifted. Civilians from nearby sectors, aliens who had heard of Hale's previous stand, appeared from hidden shelters. Some carried sticks. Others had tools they had fashioned into weapons. They weren't trained soldiers, but they were ready to fight for the children. Hale's eyes widened slightly. They came because of us. Lyra's tiny hand found his. You don't give up, do you? She whispered. No, Hale said, gripping her hand gently. Not when it matters most. The standoff lasted hours. Neither side moved aggressively, but both watched the other carefully. Then a signal came from the orbiting horizon. Hale answered. Horizon report. A calm voice replied. Captain, your broadcast went live across multiple sectors. Many have already begun moving towards Kepra 4. You're no longer alone. Hale's chest swelled with pride. Tell them. Tell them to stay safe. We don't need another war. We need witnesses. Witnesses to the truth. Above them, ships from various planets began appearing. Former enemies, refugees, and neutral observers all came, drawn by the story of one human protecting one child. The Rinth soldiers paused, their orders suddenly complicated by the presence of so many witnesses. Virthal observed from his flagship. Humans, he muttered. They turned defiance into strength. Fascinating. As night fell, Hale walked among the survivors, checking on everyone. Lyra was tired but smiling. Her mother looked at Hale with gratitude she couldn't put into words. Captain, she said softly, you didn't have to do this. You could have stayed safe. I could have, Hale admitted. But if I can't protect the smallest among us, then what's the point of being human at all? The girl's small hand squeezed his. You're my hero, she said simply. Hale chuckled softly. Not a hero, just someone who refuses to stand aside. That night Hale slept little. The stars above Kepra 4 were unusually bright, perhaps reflecting the quiet hope that had begun to spread across the galaxy. The Rinth fleet had not attacked, but the tension remained. Hale knew this was just the beginning. One act of courage had ignited something much larger, something that could change the balance of power across worlds. And for the first time in a long while, he felt something he hadn't felt in years, the true weight of hope. The darkness of space was pierced by streaks of light. Hundreds of ships from countless worlds hovered above Kepra 4. The humans on the surface stared upward in awe. Even Hale had not expected this. Former enemies, neutral planets, and even reluctant allies all answering the silent call of courage. The Rinth Dominion had prepared for compliance, not rebellion. But one human captain's defiance had sparked something they could not anticipate. Captain David Hale stood in the middle of the camp, Lyra by his side. His men, weary but alert, formed a loose line around the civilians. The Rinth ships above adjusted, scanning the new arrivals. The tension was electric. Hale took a deep breath. This isn't just about Lyra, he said to his team. This is about showing the galaxy that mercy, courage, and unity are stronger than fear. Mark Lanson nodded. It's bigger than us now, sir. Much bigger. On the Rinth flagship, Commander Virthal studied the approaching fleet. Their numbers were overwhelming. They will not back down, he said. His crystalline eyes reflected frustration. They are united. How do humans inspire this? Threx, his second, replied. It is not just humans, my lord. Others follow because they see a choice. One man stood for what was right. Now many see the path. Virthal's sharp edges glimmered. Curious. Emotion can be a weapon. Back on the surface, the Rinth landed cautiously. Their soldiers emerged, but no one fired. Hale stepped forward, his voice carrying across the dusty plain. Rinth, he said, look around. Do you see hatred? Do you see conquest? No, you see life, hope, and families you cannot destroy. Today your logic is not stronger than our courage. The Rinth commander's voice cracked through the comms. Captain Hale, your species continues to defy reason. Hale smiled faintly. Maybe reason isn't everything. And then it began. A small ship from a neighboring sector touched down, followed by another and another. Formerly conquered species emerged from hiding, many carrying whatever they could as protection, others simply standing to show solidarity. Children joined the line, their innocence and courage inspiring even hardened veterans. Lyra clung to Hale's hand wide-eyed. Captain, are we really going to win? Hale knelt beside her. We're not winning just because of force, Lyra. We're winning because we choose to protect what's right. That's what makes us human. Her eyes sparkled with understanding. So even if they have bigger ships, we're stronger? In a way, Hale said. We're stronger in heart. The standoff lasted hours. Rinth soldiers moved cautiously, unsure of their orders. Each time they raised a weapon, someone, human or alien, stepped forward in silent defiance. No one fired first. The power of unity had created an invisible shield. Commander Vierthal finally addressed Hale through a transmitter. Human, this cannot continue. You risk rebellion across multiple sectors. Hale's eyes narrowed. Maybe that's exactly what's needed. One child is not just one life. One act of courage can awaken the galaxy. The Rinth paused. For the first time, logic alone could not dictate the outcome. Across the sectors, stories of Hale's stand had already inspired uprisings, protests, and small victories against Rinth oppression. Humanity had become a symbol, proof that mercy and courage could defy even the most ruthless empire. Night fell. The stars above were brighter, not from fires or ships, but from hope. Hale and his team moved among the civilians, checking shelters, giving encouragement and sharing water and food. Lyra ran between them, her laughter echoing like music across the plains. Her mother approached Hale. You've done more than save a child. You've reminded everyone that life matters. Hale nodded quietly. We all have a choice. You can follow fear or you can follow what is right. The mother held Lyra close. Thank you. Humanity, it's extraordinary, Hale smiled faintly. Not extraordinary. Just willing to act when it counts. Above them, the Rinth fleet made its decision. Vierthal ordered a retreat not out of fear but calculation. The humans and their allies were no longer a single unit. They were a movement. Engaging in battle would not bring victory. It would spark rebellion across the galaxy. As the ships lifted off, Hale felt a strange weight lift from his shoulders. The fight wasn't over, but a line had been drawn. One small act of courage had changed everything. The next morning, Hale stood at the camp's edge looking out at the survivors. Lyra ran to him, her small hands holding a flower she had found in the ruins. For you, she said. Hale took it carefully. Thank you, Lyra, you remind me why this matters, she smiled. You reminded everyone. Hale looked at the horizon. The galaxy was changing. Worlds once fearful of the Rinth were now asking themselves what they could do. If one human could stand for what was right, others could too. The USS Horizon arrived, lowering ramps for supplies and reinforcements. Hale climbed aboard, looking back at the camp. Survivors waved, children laughed, and life slowly returned to Kepra 4. Hale knew that his defiance had done more than save one child. It had sparked hope, unity, and courage. Across the galaxy, species began to question tyranny and oppression, and in that questioning they found the seed of a better future. Months later, Hale received a message from Lyra's mother. The little girl was thriving, learning and dreaming of a galaxy where no child would be taken by fear. She wrote, Captain Hale, because of you, we saw hope. We saw that even one person can change everything. We will never forget. Hale read the words slowly, a rare smile spreading across his face. Humanity's true strength was never just in weapons or strategy. It was in courage, compassion, and the willingness to act when it mattered most. Somewhere in the galaxy, a lesson had been taught. To protect the innocent even against impossible odds is the mark of a truly great species, and Captain David Hale, standing among allies and survivors, knew that humanity had proven itself, not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as guardians. The stars above Kepra 4 seemed brighter than ever. The light of hope never died, it only grew stronger.